Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by Tucker Hazel. And today, Tucker, we have a very special episode of Backlog Banter because off the top, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is the highlight of your week, but
Always.
unfortunately, this episode of Backlog Banter is the last for now. We're going on a little bit of a hiatus, not the entire channel. We'll still have a shit ton of content, but this show in particular, the titular show of the channel, we're taking a little bit of a break while we're here at school and unable to finish as many games as we were able to absurdly finish when we were in the height of the show.
Yeah.
That said, if you want to keep talking to us about the games we're playing, the games you're playing, join our Discord link as always, top of the description. When you're rooting around down there, subscribe, like, ring the bell as well. Tucker, I'm tired of all of that. Let's make this episode, before we go on hiatus, a fucking banger.
I would just like to assess the fact that your viewpoint of the people who watch Backlog Banter is that they're
Yes.
ground-based animals. They're always rooting.
They're
Are
always
they
rooting.
badgers? Are they pigs? Are they like gophers? I'm just curious how you see them.
If you had to, well, comment below what ground-based animal you'd want to be. But pig sounds rude, right?
Sure, yeah, has other connotations as well. Yeah,
I guess badger.
badger.
But do badgers root around?
Yeah, I dig it. I think.
What if they're like
Ooh,
raccoons?
naked
Because
mole rats.
those are gross. Raccoons root around in trash cans.
That's true, but also aren't those kind of gross too? Video games.
Tucker, I have
Shock you back to reality.
I have 3 games I have
Okay.
finished since we recorded last.
Holy balls.
None of them were especially long.
Okay.
This totals probably under 10 gameplay hours.
Okay.
But the first game I want to talk about is Super Hot. This is a
Super
game.
hot. Super
Yes,
hot. It's a
they
game where
they
they go super hot.
they
You move and they go
certainly
super hot.
they certainly go super hot a lot in the game. But this is a title
Super
I.
hot. It's fun to say. It's fun to say.
It's very fun to say. It gets a little bit grating the more you
Sure.
play the game, but this is one that I've wanted to play for a long time. I am a big shooter fan, and I love an innovative take on the first-person shooter. And Super Hot is exactly that. For people who aren't familiar, the gimmick is very simple. Time moves when you move. So as long as you're standing still, you can plan out these ridiculous John Wick-esque chain set piece moments, which are it's very cool. Super Hot is a very cool game. It's one I always heard constant praise for, and I finally got to play it because it was added to PS Now just the other week.
Okay, interesting.
So I downloaded it, I played it, and I really enjoyed it. I'm of two minds with Super Hot.
Okay.
The gameplay is excellent. I think it's so innovative. I think the stages are really well designed. There is a real sense of freedom. I never was playing and felt that there's one way to solve any puzzle, because the game is very
Sure.
puzzle heavy, the way you have to move from enemy to enemy, because you die in one hit, they die in one hit, so you have to be very deliberate. I never felt like I was being railroaded one direction. I felt like there's a lot of creativity to each level. So the gameplay, I think, is excellent. The story, Tucker, have you played Super Hot?
We'll discuss my experience with Super Hot once you're finished.
The story is it's I was talking to some people in the Discord about it. It's written by it feels like it's written by a liberal arts major who's a really big brain. It's like a big brain. Oh, technology and violence and desensitization. It's not really, it's on the nose, but it's like dropping an anvil onto your nose. And there are some interesting concepts in terms of how the narrative is framed with these almost like text-based inputs that make you feel like you're going into the game Super Hot in the context of Super Hot. It's very interesting.
Okay.
That said, the narrative very quickly goes from an interesting framing device to an overt and kind of grating thematic commentary.
Sure.
Which draws focus away from what should have just been a really excellent, mechanically solid puzzle shooter into the realm of something that's trying to have a message, but it doesn't quite work and it detracts from the gameplay.
Sure.
On the whole, I really enjoyed it, but it could have been a lot tighter.
I don't know anything about the story of Super Hot, so you telling me that there is a story is kind of my first experience with that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I played the game when it was a browser game.
Okay.
Back in the fucking day on my friends, like, he had this Mac laptop that was for some reason really, really small. Like, I don't know what they're called, but it was this tiny little laptop, and we just played it on there, and they still went super hard. So like that's the thing I know about the game.
Yeah.
But I've seen it played, not to the point where I knew there was a story. So that obviously
Yeah.
shows that I'm not particularly experienced with it. But it's always been something I've been interested in. But it, I've never gotten around to it, and I didn't know it was so short though.
Yeah, I would. You can beat it in a sitting.
Okay.
I played it in two just as playing around a class. But it's easy to sit down and play in an afternoon. So
Sure.
in that context, I think it's worth checking out. In the sequel, Super Hot Mime Control Delete, I've heard mixed things about, but that's on Game Pass.
Okay.
And it just released last year, I believe. So I'm
Didn't
gonna
know it
check that out.
existed.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out pretty soon.
Okay, cool. You'll have to give me your opinion on that, because again, maybe I thought it was DLC, maybe I thought it was just like a
Yeah.
repackaging, but I didn't know there was a sequel to the game. It is a sequel. You sure?
It is a sequel. And
Man,
I was
they
in
did not promote that properly then, because I
no,
didn't know anything about that.
I was in the same position you were. I didn't realize the game had a narrative. I didn't realize that the Mind Control Delete was an actual sequel. So I'm glad I gave it the time to actually understand it.
Sure.
I think the developer wants it to be a little bit more for you to understand and sink your teeth into than there actually is.
Mm.
But it's definitely worth playing, especially in the context of it taking 2 hours, 2.5
Sure.
hours to complete. Do you want me to hit you with another one, or do you have? Because
I
I
would
don't.
love to.
Okay.
You want to finish that sentence?
Because I don't know if you have any games to talk about.
I would like to tell you, I can count on my hands how much video games I've played
Hmm.
in the
Yeah,
last
that's what I
2 or 3 weeks. I have not touched a video game since I beat Dark Souls,
Okay.
which I talked about last week. It's just kind of, nothing's gonna be as good as Dark Souls, so why fucking bother? But then I'm not gonna stop playing
Sure.
video games forever. I've been worming it around in my brain of what to get to. But no, I don't have anything to add. I
No,
don't know
that's
why I'm
good.
here. I shouldn't be. I should go take a nap or something.
It's a funky time. You've got a bizarre work schedule.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of stuff going on. We're busy. It's part of the reason why we're taking a little bit of a hiatus, because
I've got a sty on my eye. I don't know if you see
that's
this
not
little.
ideal.
Yeah, it's a little kind of tender.
Because here's the thing, Tucker, we don't value the audience's time. That's just kind of
No,
on the record. But we value your time
I'm
enough
like
to not.
just like Zack Snyder.
We value your time enough to not keep doing the show when it's just going to be a drain on us and we're not going to have a ton of content to bring. That's
Yeah.
not going to be good for you guys. That said, let's talk about the second game I want to touch on, and that is Katana Zero. This is a
Zero for
game.
Katana Zero.
That's all I want to say. It's a game. No, Katana Zero is a developer digital game that I had always heard a lot about. A couple of our friends in the Discord absolutely adore it. And I was in a similar funk to you, where I was kind of hopping between some things because Game Pass allows me to do that, and nothing was really sticking.
Such a
But
bad influence on you.
it's an awful influence on me. But so I downloaded Katana Zero, which is on Game Pass, and I started it, and immediately the game hooked me
Sure.
because it's like the disparate influences it draws on just speak to me so well. I mean, it came out before it, but there's the aesthetic. If you like Cyberpunk 2077, there's some cyberpunk in there. Just the trappings of that genre as a whole are in there. You got some Quentin Tarantino in terms of the writing in there. You got a lot of Hotline Miami influence, a lot of
Sure.
Ninja Gaiden influence. It's a lot of things I really love stuck together, and I really love this game.
Good.
I think it's one where the least you know about it, the better. So in the simplest terms, you're playing as this ninja assassin who gets hits from his therapist. Basically, you go
Right.
to your therapist during the day.
Good influence,
have,
it sounds like.
yes, you have your meeting with your therapist, and on the way out, you pick up a dossier with who you got to kill that night. That's all I'm gonna say, because the narrative of this game really impressed me. I think it's a
Good.
narrative masterpiece. I was not expecting, again, like Super Hot, I didn't truly understand the nature of Katana Zero. I knew it was a precise Ninja Gaiden inspired 2D action platformer, but what I didn't realize is how deep the narrative is, the fact that it has dialogue choices, the ways that it plays with and subverts your expectations of the story and the gameplay. It's really an incredible game with phenomenal mechanics and an even more phenomenal soundtrack.
Okay.
I
I
re-
haven't heard I haven't heard the music, but I'm sure I
it's
enjoy
yeah,
soundtracks on the whole. So, that's always a
it's
plus for me.
it's really good. And like I said, I think that if people aren't familiar with the game, you want to play it knowing only that much.
Okay.
Because the way it subverts your expectations as it goes along is so special. Again, like Super Hot, this is a little bit longer than Super Hot. I'd say it's about 4 hours.
That's
But
still very short.
it's still very short. But for me, it was 2 days that it took me to beat the game.
Yeah.
But again, if you can download this off Game Pass, easy. But even if you're paying, I think the game is like $15 or $20 on
Yeah.
the storefronts, worth every penny. It's
Sure.
rising up the ranks of my favorite indie games. I
Okay.
really think it's excellent. I will say, do prefer Cyber Shadow
Sure.
for my money, but Katana Zero is great
For my money.
for my money.
So you're not
Yeah,
going to talk anything more about Katana Zero because you'd like to sort of save the experience for the viewers. You're just going to heavily recommend it.
yeah, because here's the thing: the people who have played Katana Zero hear what I'm saying and they know what I mean. The people who haven't played Katana Zero hear the recommendation and know that they don't want to know anything else. I think
Sure.
I serve the people listening. Before I hit the last game, I want to hit a quick Game Pass is a bad influence Rockblock because I
Okay.
tried 3 games.
Oh, okay. A mini list here.
Yes, I tried Gears of War Ultimate Edition.
Okay. The first game.
Yes, it is the Xbox One remaster of the original.
I didn't know that existed.
Yes, I believe it was not. I don't know if it was a pre-order bonus, but it was tied up with Gears of War 4. I believe like the year
4.
Gears 4 came out. This also came out.
The Gears series is such a fucking enigma to me. They just
Me-
keep pumping them out, and I can't tell the fucking difference. And apparently they're okay.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to try them. So I've played very little of it. I've played about an hour.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm going to stick with it because it's the sort of mid 2000s hoorah action hero fucking steroid bulky boy stuff that doesn't really speak to me necessarily. But playing even just a little bit, it's so clear how fucking influential this game was.
Sure.
From so much of third person cover shooting is taken directly from Gears.
Yeah.
And it feels really good. Now, of course, I'm playing the remastered version that's a little bit newer, but what that game brought was so special. And because people love it so much and think of it on the same tier as Halo,
Mhm.
I want to at least finish Gears 1. It's not a very long
Okay.
game either.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
don't know if I'm going to play it right now, but I downloaded that, tried it a little bit, saw its influence, but the aesthetic is just not. It's a little bit of
It's a
turn off
very
for me.
gross game. Like everything's just kind of falling apart and like bloody and
Yeah.
like so I have Gears of War and Gears of War 3 on my Xbox 360.
Yeah.
I've never gotten past like I don't know, first like semi boss battle or something. So probably an hour, probably 45 minutes. My mom called me for dinner and I had to just put it down. I never came back to it. But there's no other chance for me to ever share this story except for when we're talking about Gears of War right now. But the first time I ever played a violent video game was Gears of War 2 in a Games to You truck for my birthday when I was like 12 or something like that. Do you know what Games to You? Game to You?
No.
It's a truck with 4 TVs in it and a one long couch on the other side, 2 TVs on the outside with like Wii Sports on them and Rock Band. But you and your friends just load into this long ass truck with TVs going on the side of it, and you play Smash, you play all sorts of Call of Duties and stuff like that. And
Huh.
that's what I did for my birthday for like 5 years. And they had them at like school events. I remember one school event, like a school festival, that had a Games to You truck, and the guy who ran it was playing Smash with us, and he just beat our asses all Olimar the entire time. And everyone was like piling in trying to beat this guy. And he was just this god tier Olimar. It was great.
That's awesome.
But first time I ever played a violent video game was Gears of War 2. And it's this mission where you're in a helicopter and you land and you're shooting down the aliens like the swarm or whatever is coming. And then I like got out and I told my parents, like, oh, I played this really cool game. Can I like see if I can get this somehow? And they like sat me down on the front porch and like, don't play violent video games. It's very bad for you. Like they had this serious discussion with like, are you gonna like become a shooter? Like, is this gonna seriously mess our child up? And I was just sitting there like, I didn't know what was going on. I just played Gears of War 2 for like 40 minutes, and that was. And then my mom got me an Xbox one day.
Nice. It's very bro-y, which I didn't quite realize. There's that the whole for people who are a little bit more Halo inclined, like the Sergeant Johnson hoorah. That's basically the entire ethos of this game, but everyone's built like a fucking compact truck, and it's just I don't know. I want to play it a little bit more. I might actually just play like 5 because I don't think the narrative is particularly important. I hate to say it. It might be. I might be stereotyping the franchise.
From what I can tell, looking in,
yeah,
it seems like it gets more important as it goes on.
yeah.
Because I think the characters sort of grow over time, and in 4 and 5, I think they're more narrative focused. From what I know, looking
Different developer, by the way.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, even if that with that change, maybe that you would want to know the context. Maybe it'll hit a little bit better story wise playing those later games if you know what happened in the first ones. Because I'm sure there's world altering events and fucking characters who died or influential or whatever.
As you can tell, neither of us are very invested in Gears of War. Very quickly, I started not finishing Ethan Carter, the good one, the video game version of Gone Home.
Edith Finch?
What Finch, yes.
Finch?
Yeah.
That is an hour-and-a-half video game.
I know. I started it, and then I got to like the technical part, and then I got tired, and I went to bed, didn't come back to it. Since it's so short, I'm going to try it again at a different time, just sit down and play it. I'm not going to say I was off-put by it, but the way it just kind of railroading me wasn't quite speaking to me at the time.
Sure.
But I know that that's a very important indie game for a lot of people. I know you love it. A bunch of people on our Discord love it, so I will give
Tanner played it and liked it, which blows my fucking mind. I don't know why he bought it. He's never played any kind of game like that.
Sure.
But he played it in a setting. He's like, oh, that was really fun.
Well, then I'll definitely give it a shot then.
Yeah.
Last one, Fallout 4. Now here's what's interesting about Fallout 4, Tucker. Never played a Fallout game before. But Xbox Gamepass, Bethesda merger, fucking talking together, a bunch of games onto Gamepass.
Yeah.
Downloaded a bunch of them. The only one I've tried so far is Fallout 4. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's very janky.
True.
It's very janky. The inventory management's terrible.
Okay. Can't say I really remember that too much.
Because you have to do it all in the Pip-Boy, and you do it, and like you can't really see what you're changing if you change your appearance. And it's like, it's just not quite working for me. And here, having played Outer Worlds, having played Cyberpunk, I've come to really enjoy a first-person Western role-playing game. And both of those games needed Fallout to exist for them to exist, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just not sure if Fallout 4 is going to click with me because what has come after it is doing the exact same thing, but for me, in terms of game feel, in a better way.
Yeah.
That said, Fallout has such an interesting aesthetic and has such great writing that I want to give it a chance, but I just don't know if maybe I should play like New Vegas instead, because people love New Vegas.
Yeah.
And I would rather play something that's a little bit older and more polished for its time.
Sure.
Opposed to Fallout 4, which got a lot of criticism, now me playing it rightfully so, for not feeling like it was a game that released in 2015,
Sure, yeah.
If I go back and like New Vegas is older, it's going to be a little bit clunkier, but definitively it's polished to what the 360 could do with apparently better writing, more interesting quests and everything. Maybe I'll go there instead. Also on Game Pass, so not going to be out of my pocket, but I tried it. I will probably try it again at some point. Played probably 2 hours.
I remember seeing Fallout 4's trailer and thinking it was really interesting. Never played a Fallout game before. Got it on Steam. I've probably played a middling 10 hours or something of it, just screwing around, just trying some different quests, just because I think the world is really intricately designed. There's a really natural placement to all the buildings, and there's lots of secrets everywhere and lots of hidden side quests and then lots of mechanics that feed into other things, and you got base building, you got collecting your characters back to your hometown and repairing things and sort of rebuilding the world. And I think from that perspective, in the way that I played it was very interesting. I, at the time, was not very experienced with open world games, and I was just sort of happy to be seeing this fun aesthetic and screwing around with some interesting characters. Really loved Codsworth. Codsworth is great. But and I think the setup for the stories is pretty interesting as well. But it obviously something that didn't hook me completely. My brother is a Fallout 4 fanatic. He cheeses my Steam library all the time to just play Fallout 4. So I probably have like 80 hours in Fallout 4, most of
Yeah.
them not me. But New Vegas is also one that intrigues me. I bought all the Fallout games on a Steam sale one time, so I own 1, 2, 3 New Vegas and 4. No Fallout 76 that came out way after.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to try some of them at some point because I know 3 and New Vegas are very influential. I tried one time, Fallout.
Yes, very
Fallout,
different.
very, very different, and I was just confused. It's an old
Yes.
PC game, very clearly. But that series is so fascinating to me, and I think that regardless of what you prefer out of them, I think all of them are at least good games, and they clearly have a large amount of influence. So I don't know, maybe I'll dive into them someday, but there's just so much shit to play in the world that
Yes.
might not take center stage in my life at any point.
That makes sense. Tucker, I've got one more game to talk about, and this one I finished. We very briefly touched on it last week, but now the game's completed. That's, of course, Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie's Double Trouble.
Wow, it's a long time.
Tucker,
Me.
I hate to say it, but I now am firmly of the opinion that Donkey Kong Country as a series is much better and much more interesting than 2D Mario. I really enjoyed my time with DKC3. I think it suffers from a very similar problem to DKC2, which is every level has a new level gimmick.
Sure.
And by the time you reach the second half of your third DKC game that you've made in 3 years, you're running out of ideas for new level gimmicks. So the back half of that game has some just not fun levels, like this one where you go down into this poisoned sewer, and the gimmick is that your controls are reversed. And it loses its appeal, right?
Yeah.
But on the whole, if you can discount probably 10 to 15% of the levels that have bad gimmicks, this is a really exemplary game for a lot of different reasons.
Sure.
By the way, Kiddy Kong was a bad concept.
Okay.
His design is fine. I don't care about his design that much. It's weird. He's a fucking big baby wearing footy pajamas. Whatever. The problem with Kiddy Kong is that he's not very nimble, believe it or not.
Okay.
And some sequences are just clearly meant to be played with Dixie Kong. And when you lose Dixie Kong and you're stuck with fucking Kiddy Kong, the game becomes not balanced properly.
Sure. Oh, interesting. I didn't know they controlled that drastically differently because, I mean,
yes.
DKC 1, Diddy and Donkey basically control the same.
Yeah.
Dixie is just better in DKC 2 than Diddy is, but they're still relatively similar. I didn't know that there was anything different in DKC 3.
I mean, Kiddy Kong has a hitbox the size of a fucking barn, and he doesn't have Dixie's hair twirl, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And those things just combined.
Does he have an ability?
He's heavy. And so what that means is that he can jump on and kill certain enemies that Dixie can't.
Okay.
And Dixie can pick him up and throw him like a barrel, which is really not useful a lot of times, because if you throw him onto something like spiky, he'll just die. Like, you can't throw him onto a bee to get rid of a bee like you can with a barrel, because he'll just get freaked out. But you can throw him into like a banana coin or like a Kong letter, but most of them you can collect by just jumping into it.
Yeah.
So he's really just not properly implemented, which is unfortunate because so much about DKC 3 is really great. And the first is the overworld. This is the best overworld I've ever seen in a 2D platformer, because it's really interconnected. And basically how it works is you go to an area, you finish the area. When you beat the boss, you get like a new piece of equipment to put on your vehicle, which you use to traverse the environments. You take it back to Funky Kong. He upgrades what you're going in from like a little like tire raft to a raft with skis on it to a bunch of different vehicles, which lets you get further into the overworld and get to other areas. So like maybe you can upgrade your craft so you can go up a waterfall to another level that's up on the mountain or something. We talk about DKC having a sense of place, and this is just that on steroids.
Sure.
The overworld is so clever. It interfaces so directly with the levels. All of the levels are so believable and well designed from an aesthetic perspective, and mostly from a platform perspective. Like I said, a couple level gimmicks are just not very fun. But the overworld is incredible. the game's visuals are stunningly beautiful. This game
Yeah, I
has
mean,
such
one
a
already looked great.
one looks great. This looks unbelievable for the hardware.
Yeah.
And there's such a fun cast of characters. People think of, DKC and you're thinking about Donkey, Diddy, Dixie, Funky, maybe Kitty, but you're getting into like these like fucking like bears that look like they're from like a pizza joint. You're playing like carnival games with Cranky Kong to win shit. There's such a specific aesthetic to this world that's so fun. And of course the platform is just really tight. On
Yeah.
the whole, it's pretty well designed. The music is great as usual. It's just a really special game. I really enjoyed it. My ranking is probably DKC 1, Tropical Freeze 3, and 2. But I think all of the games are great. And I just bought Returns 3D, which should be here on Monday.
Okay.
I usually like to just download my games, but I had a GameStop gift card, and apparently you can't use a gift card to get a digital code. So now I have to fucking wait for them to slowly
You can if you go to the store.
Yeah, but I can't
Yeah.
really get to the store right now, so I have to just wait for it to slowly arrive.
Monday's
I don't
not
know.
that slowly. That's some good shipping.
Well, I ordered it several days ago now,
Sure.
and they
And,
said,
and from my perspective, I
yeah,
don't order a ton of things online. I don't like buying things in general. But
yeah.
if something gets here within a week or like a little over a week, I'm like, okay. But you know,
I'm
after that, I'm like, I start to forget that I ordered it, and then I'm like, shit. Oh, they're sending me like weird updates, and is it coming now? I got a thing saying it's coming today, but it's certainly not here. Like there's a line that's drawn between, oh shit, that got here, great, I'll have a good time with it, and oh god damn it, just fucking ordering stuff online, stupid.
I'm spoiled by Amazon, especially because Amazon anything Prime will deliver to my campus next day, which is nuts.
Holy balls.
Yeah, but I had to go to the
But not
fucking
Donkey Kong.
GameStop. Not Donkey Kong, not Donkey Kong. But I'm very excited to play that. Then I will have played all of the games outside of the Land games, which I might check out. But by all accounts, those are kind of gimped Game Boy platforms.
I'm sure they are. No one talks about them.
But I'm very glad I played through 3. Of course, all these games are on SNES Online, so people should play
Which is
them.
how you played them.
Yes.
How heavy would you say your use of rewind was during that playthrough?
I rewound through a couple bosses that were just frustrating, and a couple of the more frustrating level gimmicks, like the reverse controls.
Yeah.
But what I did instead is I just was very rigorous with myself of making a restore point when I started the level and when I hit the checkpoint, and just going back. So I would have gamed over a lot if I was playing on original hardware, but I was being very deliberate to not abuse rewind for the most part. If I die,
I think the
back to
fact that
checkpoint at the beginning.
they have save points and rewind allows you
Yeah.
to really tailor your experience to how you want to play. Avoid a little bit of old game design bullshit with game overs that just hamper your experience and don't improve anything. But yeah, I mean that sounds pretty reasonable. And honestly, that's something I didn't really think about doing, because I kind of forget sometimes about the save points. I don't know why I'm doing that. That's how you bring up the save points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LZR.
But that, I mean, I don't know. Older games a lot shorter when you can cheese them like that. But I think that makes it. Maybe I'll try some of those games on SASLM.
Yeah.
I mean, I already have, but I'd like to play more of them. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, Tucker, those are the 3 games I finished since
It's
we played
time
last.
for my segment, and I don't know exactly how we want this to work.
I don't know what this is.
Exactly, because I just came up with it as I was like I was taking a nap, and then I got out, watched a donkey video, got up to record this, and I came up with this idea. I'm like, it has been almost 3 weeks since I've played a video game, which is absurd in the scale of my life, how much fucking video games I usually play. And I think the problem is right now, just looking at my games library, and I own a lot of video games, believe it or not. I don't know how I want to balance my time, because there was something about the Souls games that I played recently that were so tailorable to playing in long sessions or short sessions. And when I look at something like, oh, I really want to try some of the Final Fantasy games, I'm like, okay, that's gonna be a fucking time commitment.
Yes.
Or if there's something small, I'm like, oh well, that's just gonna be over really quickly. Like I really basically I just want to keep playing Souls games, but I don't know what to play. So for this segment, I just kind of want to talk about how you deal with finding new games, like what games maybe you can recommend me some. Maybe there's some stuff that I can try to reinvigorate myself to get myself back into playing video games. what that means for the future of this show, because while we're taking a hiatus, if we have some interesting stuff to talk about, we'll do an episode. It's not gonna kill us to come back. But I don't know. I'm fascinated by video games. I know it's a fucking shock, but I really want to get myself up and running again.
Sure. Yeah, and by the way, to clarify, the hiatus really refers to the fact that this is not going to be a weekly show anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there'll be episodes. I would say probably when there's a more major game release that maybe I want to talk about or you want to talk about.
Outside of a review.
Yeah, yeah. Because like I'm going to play Monster Hunter Rise. I don't think you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe a little BLB, a little special, if you will, for that would be interesting. But that's an interesting question because I often find myself jumping from game to game and not really knowing what to play and just getting like, I don't know what to play. And it can be tiresome to want to get into a game, not wanting to just jump around and not really knowing how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I usually take a walk around my digital libraries, my physical libraries, see what I have that I haven't finished that I'd like to play. Because I don't have very many games that I've never played. I've got a couple, but for the most part, if I've bought a game, I've at least played some of it. So I look to see, what do I have here that I want to finish? Is for me, because I write a lot about games, I think, is there anything that I want to investigate in a written piece that maybe I should play right now first? Or I don't watch actually a ton of gaming YouTube, to be honest. But I watch a couple channels. My Scott the Waz's, my Donkeys are big ones for me that I just constantly rewatch.
Of course.
So maybe I'm watching a Donkey video and he's talking about something and that spikes my interest and I'll hop into something. And really, sometimes it takes playing 15 minutes of 3 games before something clicks.
Sure.
But right now, Tucker, how I'm solving this is I'll put on a podcast and just listen to something and I'll go on Gamepass and literally go all games on Gamepass, look at literally every one of them. Whenever one's interesting me, I just hit download. And then I've got like 4 or 5 games downloaded. And then when it strikes me, I'll jump into one like that.
Sure.
So I don't have any grand method, I guess. There's no fucking
calculus. That's a pretty reasonable method. I think I should use Game Pass a little more. I only hesitate, not only because it's not my Game Pass that I'm using, and I still feel a little bit weird about using Jenny's Xbox, but also because I own a lot of games that I still want to play, and I'm like, well, I paid money for these, and I'm not paying money for the Game Pass one, so like I want to make my money worth it, but maybe I just need to suck it up and use the free service that's given to me. I know it's tough. I know it's going to psychologically damage me, but I know there's a lot of great stuff on Game Pass. The Bethesda thing, just dump of like 22 games, something like that, is fascinating. There's a lot of cool games on there, and I've heard some of them are upgraded with better frame rates and load times and all that. Although I don't think all of them are, which is a little bit interesting. But
yeah, they had to pick and choose for the FPS boost, and I think that might only be on Series S and Series X.
Microphone. Oh, and I don't have those. I don't have one of those next gen consoles.
Yeah, which I don't think you can take advantage of. I could be wrong, but I don't think you can take advantage of FPS boost without them.
Okay, well, I'm sure they'll still run better on Xbox One. But I was hovering on the eShop today. I really want to play the original Final Fantasy VII. Just I don't know why. I'm having that itch.
Sure.
And I can't tell you if I'm actually gonna do it or not because I still have a lot of games that I've bought that I haven't played, and I don't necessarily want to add that to this. I do own that game on Steam, but PC gaming has just been such a turnoff to me in the last like 2 years.
Also, for Final Fantasy VII, the flexibility to play that in handheld mode,
that's
worth it. Yeah,
and also it's only $8 right now.
I have it on Switch also. Yeah. I played a little bit of it, then I remember that I don't really like Japanese role-playing games. Then I played 7 Remake and fucking love 7 Remake. But that could be one to play. My suggestion for you, because you asked for a game recommendation, if I had any, and the first thing my mind went to is play Link's Awakening.
Yeah, because that's what's been percolating at the back of my mind. Every time I'm like, I should play a video game, I'm like, I should just sit down and play Link's Awakening. I really should just do it.
Let me lay out because I think there's a lot of great reasons to play Link's Awakening. First of all, it's Zelda's 35th anniversary, right? So that's some good synergy. Maybe even no pressure, but make a video about it.
I would love to.
But also, I think that's the right length game that's not too short, not too long, right? You can beat it in probably 10 to 12 hours. So
Okay.
you could play it over the course of a couple days. It's not going to be sit down, play it, and you're done. It's not going to take a fucking week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of your life.
Mhm.
But it's so well designed. It's of course a remake of a Game Boy game, so mechanically it's a little bit simpler. It's
Yeah.
not going to be as taxing, and it just has such a wonderful aesthetic and great characters. And it's the game I played and finished at a time when I was playing very few video games. It was right when we both began our freshman years of college.
Yeah.
I was very busy with everything else, but Link's Awakening was one game that I was able to play during that time and actually finish.
Mhm.
I just think it's the right length, it's the right gameplay style, it's the right aesthetic, it's everything. I think that should be the one you play.
I agree. And I also I think I've just been so busy lately.
Yeah,
Adding this work schedule, I work 7 to 11 p.m. 2 nights a week,
which is bizarre.
which just fucking kills me the next morning.
Yes.
Um, and then I also have a 7 to 10 shift one morning after one of those shifts, which just kills me the rest of that day.
Yes.
And then into the next day, which is today, I'm still running on like a weird sleep schedule for the last few days.
Yes.
And then that makes it hard for me to do my homework. And because I'm not doing my homework, I'm like, I shouldn't start a video game because I'm definitely not going to do my homework. I have a
Yeah.
Latin test to do right now that's due on Sunday.
Yeah.
I really should do that, but I really want to play a video game. And also I've just been getting more into watching movies recently.
Yeah.
I watched like 5 or 6 movies last weekend, and that was so nice. I'd been sort of on a lighter movie watching schedule, but just binging some movies, just that fucking gets me going, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But I really like video games, and I think that's such a stupid thing to say, but I really think that maybe Link's Awakening could pull me back in.
Yeah. I generally think that any of Nintendo's games are great for this kind of in between space. I mean, I find Nintendo games very easy to play when I'm feeling burnt out on other games. Not only because I love Nintendo so much, but because their design philosophies of accessibility, of pick up and play design, of all of this, make them really great for hopping in and out of. So I don't think you go wrong with anything there. And I think of the ones you own, Link's Awakening is it's just a great game too. It's one of my favorite Zelda games. So.
Great. Yeah, and considering how I got into Zelda last year and enjoyed all the ones I played, having another one to add to that list, fucking great. You have another thing you want to talk about?
No, not really.
Oh, well, you did before we started recording, which is why I said that.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, oh, they delayed Gotham Knights. Then I was gonna be like, oh, that's disappointing, but also it makes sense.
Yeah,
But also
it's not a big deal.
let's stop putting release dates on stuff if we don't think we're gonna hit them.
Yeah.
Especially if you announce your game like many months into COVID and you know the situation and you still put a release date on it
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't deliver and you release a Twitter JPEG saying how you're gonna delay the game.
Yeah.
It's tiring. I hate whenever a game gets delayed. The fucking Miyamoto quote, the yes queen replies of take all the time you want, of who gives a fuck. And at the end of the day, yeah, the Miyamoto quote is right. At the end of the day, yes, give them all the time they need. At the end of the day, developer health, better product, all of that's great.
Yep.
But also, I'm not a big fan of this celebrate delays culture.
Sure.
I think that mismanaged expectations and hype and a lot of things come from these just ridiculous cycles of let's announce a game way too early, let's put a release date that we're obviously not going to hit on it. I think all of it's really corny, and I need to get that off my chest. I'm excited for Gotham Knights. I really was hoping to play it this year. Take the time you need to make it the product it needs to be, because Arkham Knight was it's been so long that let's just make sure the game is excellent. But also, like, why in August, when the world was what it was, you're like, we're gonna hit this date, and then, but that's all I have to say.
Yeah, there's only I have not been too up to date on video game news recently. I think it's been pretty slow since we got that boost of a Nintendo Direct, a Pokemon Direct, in a PlayStation State of Play within days of each other.
Well,
Breathing.
to be fair, there has been a lot of decentralized news. Like PlayStation announced PSVR 2. They just showed off the new controllers.
Oh, that's true.
They opened a studio. They bought Evo. They're releasing like 15 games for free during play at home.
Yeah.
Xbox is getting a Square Enix game on Gamepass day one, being Outriders.
Uh-huh.
They have a shit ton of stuff in the works. They just announced an indie showcase for next week. Square Enix just held a showcase. So there's stuff, but I don't think like there's no like big boy thing, you know?
Yeah. We're just waiting for the 31st when Mario dies, and presumably we get some sort of Nintendo information the week before, the day of, or the week after. There's a 2-week gap there where I think we got
No,
no,
I don't.
yeah.
No, I don't think so. The closer we get, and Nintendo like puts out little flyers like, "Hey, this stuff is being delisted at this date," the more I'm feeling like, yeah, nothing's gonna happen. My honest prediction right now is literally nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a press release that's like, "Hey,
fuck you. Don't play our shit."
Much. I think the only thing we could maybe get is like a Zelda presentation.
Yeah, and I think that's where my mind is mostly going, is that they're waiting till the end of the Mario year to actually like really start celebrating the Zelda one. Maybe.
That's what people are saying.
Possible likelihood.
That's what VGC reported.
Okay.
That Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD are in the works for Switch, and that they're waiting until fiscal year's done and Mario has been shot in the head and we're done with anniversary stuff to bring out Zelda, which is lame as fuck.
Yeah, no, certainly is.
But
there can be
from many different perspectives.
There can be overlap there, especially because there's not a lot of Mario stuff going on right now. I mean, the release of Bowser's Fury, 3D World Bowser's Fury, was over a month ago at this point.
Yeah.
But the only other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was they did a trailer for Project Athia at the Square Enix thing. They changed its name to Forspoken, which is a terrible name. It's really lame. It's really boring. But that gameplay trailer is fucking cool. Have you seen it? You're like Ninja Doctor Strange in a wasteland fighting dragons.
I've seen like little GIFs on Twitter.
Yeah.
I should just watch the trailer. I didn't watch
it's not long. I tabbed through other people watching it.
Yeah.
But it's a teaser for gameplay, but it's interesting that they showed gameplay. And they changed the name. Athia is a much better name than Forspoken. But I think that's just seeing that gameplay clip. It's interesting to have something that short pique my interest so quickly, because I had no idea what this was. I didn't really give a shit because modern Square Enix is kind of just like all over the place. They're collecting different shit and like stirring it up. But this actually seems like a huge next gen experience with incredibly fluid visuals and animation, and it looks so cool. It looks so cool.
PlayStation exclusive also, and console side. It's coming to PC, but that's very weird how Square Enix is spreading their seed around with fucking exclusives. Chuck a couple to Sony, chuck a couple to Nintendo, fucking throw stuff on Game Pass day one. They're no stranger to cutting a deal.
Yeah.
Which is
and they got a Final Fantasy VII remake mobile game battle royale.
Final Fantasy VII remake Intergrade comes out one day after Ratchet and Clank, I learned.
Oh, that's
a really awful planning.
Yeah.
PS5 has fucking nothing to play, and then we're just gonna drop those two things 24 hours apart.
Yeah. But that's it. Backlog Banter is dead. We did it. We killed it. It's no more.
Goodbye.
Damn. Okay. Subscribe, guys. Like the video. Join our Discord. We'll see you guys in future videos.
Stop T-posing on me. It makes you too masculine.